the roll call to establish quorum, and then we'll go straight to the agenda from there. So Dr. Fair, if you could go, for those of you that are new, Dr. Fair will call your name. She'll go through the roll, and then you just announce if you're present, since we can't see each other to vote verbally.
Laura Austin.
Laura Austin, present.
Jody Autry.
Commissioner Autry is present.
Kelly Browning. Megan Kennedy.
Present.
William Cheshire. Hannah Cook. Edward Coggins.
Commissioner Coggins present.
Hannah Cook. Angela Flowers.
Commissioner Flowers present.
Aubrey Gadet.
Commissioner Gadet present.
Don Hester.
Commissioner Hester present.
Hannah Jimenez.
Commissioner Jimenez present.
Renee Kimball. Kathleen Linker.
Commissioner Linker present.
Amy Marshall.
Commissioner Marshall present.
Susan Mills.
Commissioner Mills present.
Danielle Morris.
Commissioner Morris present.
Stephen Parker.
Commissioner Parker present.
Michelle Perry. Kim Robertson.
Commissioner Robertson, present.
Nardi Roughton. Lindsay Seiss.
Commissioner Seiss present.
Rosalind Yaris. Okay. You have quorum.
Great. So again, we are ready to begin. First order of business. Give me a second. I'm toggling between multiple screens and programs. I'm getting better at this. So the first thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes. So if we don't have any questions for our minutes, which would have been from our April meeting, I would entertain a motion to accept minutes as presented, and then we'll need a second before we vote. Again, when we vote, Dr. Fair will need to go through the roll call and call names.
Commissioner Jimenez, I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Commissioner Coggins, I second the motion.
So Dr. Fair, if you can run through the roll call.
Laura Austin.
Commissioner Austin, yes, agreed.
Jody Autry.
Commissioner Autry, approved.
Kelly Browning. Megan Kennedy.
Commissioner Kennedy, approved.
William Cheshire. Edward Coggins.
Commissioner Coggins approves.
Hannah Cook. Angela Flowers.
Commissioner Flowers, aye.
Aubrey Gadet.
Commissioner Gadet approved.
Dawn Hester.
Commissioner Hester approves.
Hannah Jimenez.
Commissioner Jimenez, approved.
Renee Kimball, Kathleen Linker,
Kathleen Linker, approved.
Amy Marshall,
Commissioner Marshall approves.
Susan Mills,
Commissioner Mills approves.
Danielle Morris,
Commissioner Morris, approves.
Stephen Parker,
Commissioner Parker approves.
Michelle Perry, Kim Robertson,
Commissioner Robertson approved.
Nardi Roughton, Lindsay Seiss,
Commissioner Seiss approved.
Rosalind Norris. Okay. So you have everyone's present approval.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is just to go over really quickly some meeting norms. For a lot of us now, this is the normal. But as a commission, we've really only had 2 that have been virtual meetings with everybody present. And we've had the option before, but not where everybody was virtually. So I had sent just a general reminders. And just to go over that, basically it comes down to just like 4 expectations, which would be, be ready. And that would be like, making sure your equipment and all that's already happened. Like that's before you sign on. Mute yourself if you're not talking. That cuts out on the background noise in the feed. Be present. I know everyone's got a lot of things on the fire at one time, but I emailed everybody at my school and said I am out of commission till 3 o'clock. I'll get back with you as soon as possible, but between 12:30 and 3, I am unreachable. Just to keep myself from getting texts and emails dinging in the background. And then the other thing would be participate. And participate is different, possibly in this type of form than in a general meeting you might have, because participating when we're virtually means that we have to all partake, ask questions at some point. That's the only way for documentation that we're here, which we have to establish for quorum as a public hearing meeting and following the Robert's Rules of Conduct. So when you go to talk, first you should identify yourself. I know that's something that's hard. It's really hard for me. Like I literally have a Post-it note on my laptop that says Commissioner Linker underlined, so I can remember to say that before I speak. And do weigh in. We need to hear everybody's voice, at least once during the meeting. You don't have to talk, lots of times, but at least, occasionally come in with a comment. If you have a question, ask your question. We've made some times for questions and comments throughout it. And so it's really important that we have an oral participation, if you will, because we are not visually in a setting where we're being recorded where we can be seen. Are there any questions about those 4 kind of norms? Okay. So since we've last met as a commission, the subcommittee for digital resources, we've been working the whole entire time, specifically on 2 Canvas courses, one for textbook commissioners, and then one that we will roll out to our advisors when we get to that point in the process. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is kind of give you an update on where we are on the Commissioner's Canvas course. And Commissioner Jimenez and Commissioner Seiss have spearheaded that Canvas course. And so they're going to go through a little presentation. And when they finish, we'll talk really briefly about, what does that mean for the commission. So this time I will turn it over to Commissioner Jimenez and Commissioner Seiss.
Commissioner Linker, is somebody going to give us sharing option? So I can share my screen.
Dr. Fairchild,
You don't already have a sharing option?
No, ma'am, it's like grayed out. I can't click on it.
For those of you while we're working on that, just some background. This is the first time we've really used WebEx. In the past, we used GoTo, and so we're trying to get comfortable with this platform as commission members. There you go.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, my name is Commissioner Lindsay Semis, and I'm going to just walk you through the Canvas course that Commissioner Jimenez and I have been putting together, like Commissioner Linker said, for about the last year, since April. So it is still a little bit of a work in progress, but we just wanted to walk you through it to give you some idea of how it's going to run once it goes live. And if you have any questions after I'm done going through it, we'll be glad to answer those for you. So when you log into the site, this is what you're going to see as your homepage. The buttons across the bottom are buttons that you can choose to press. They will take you to where you need to go. But you can also work it like any other Canvas course you've done, where you can also access it through the modules. Either way, it's going to take you to the information that you need to go to. So we'll start with essential information. Okay, this is information that's very specific to your role as a commissioner. So when you click on the essential information, it's going to have some information as to some rules, some regulations, some things that as a commissioner by law you need to know, because we have to do things like Commissioner Linker said, there are certain ways that things have to be done. And this is the area where you're going to see all of that laid out for you. So when you click on the operations manual, it will open into a PDF so that you can print it out if you need to, and you can definitely work your way through that. We also have the State Board of Education policies. This is actually going to take you to the DPI website, directly to the board policies that are very specific to commissioners. Our tentative meeting schedule, the word tentative, so it can be updated as meetings change. Okay, so make sure that you are looking at that one. This one will open up into a live Word document. Okay, our attendance policy, if you heard Dr. Fair or Commissioner Linker say, we have quorum. This is going to explain to you what quorum is and what we have to have in order to meet quorum. That will come up as a PDF. The invitation will come up as a PDF also, and that is the invitation that we send out to publishers. We give it to commissioners just so that we can see what we're being asked of the publishers. And then we have the textbook adoption webpage, and obviously this opens up to webpage through DPI. Once you've gone over those, you'll click the next button. And that will bring you on over to an area where you do need to sign off that you have read and you understand everything that you've read on the essential information page. Once you sign off on that, you can click next, and this will take you to the next module. Okay. Next module is digital systems. So for those of you that are unfamiliar or have not received an email yet, earlier this week, Dr. Fair did email everybody the 2021 commissioner folder. Okay, we have uploaded a video here to walk you through how to actually put that folder into your personal Google Drive. You will be using this folder pretty much every meeting that we have. There will be information within this folder that you will need to access. Down here, we have a for best meeting or virtual meeting best practices. Commissioner Linker went over a couple of the norms earlier, but when you open it up, it does bring you to a document. Down here, it will open up into a PDF. We would like you to please read over those, because we're probably going to be in virtual meetings for a while, just so that you are up to date and you understand what is being asked of you. Okay. Hit the next.
And I will say that I emailed that to everybody in the email yesterday as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. You will need to also sign off on this area here that you have read and you understand everything that you have read. Okay. This is where, especially for new commissioners, this section here with evaluation week is very important. Excuse me. So Commissioner Jimenez and myself were new commissioners last year, and we sat down in April and said, what do we wish we would have known going into this process? And, we actually, it was funny because we both had come out with a list of things from leading up in June, July, of things we wish we would have known. So we just kind of looked at it through that new person perspective. And one of the biggest things that you're going to need to ask yourself is, what am I going to do with all of my materials? I remember the conversation where they said, oh, like it's not going to fit in a garage. You're going to have a storage area. They were pretty accurate. I mean, it was a lot of stuff. Just be prepared to either have someplace either at your house, like an entire garage, or campus, college campus storage lockers, but have a plan as to where these materials are going to go. Make sure that you can access these materials, because you're not just going to, put them somewhere and leave them. You're going to have to keep coming back to them. Okay? We gave you some ideas on how to inventory, because there are so many things that you're going to be getting. We kind of going to walk you through the inventory process. Okay, you're going to hold on to these materials for quite a while. So if you start getting them, last year was right around, May, April, you keep them all the way through October. So make sure that the place that you choose is a place that they're okay to stay for a very long time. I just remember my husband saying to me, if he has to move those boxes one more time, he's burning them all. I think he had to move them 5 times out of the garage. So try not to do that. Okay. We do have blackout information here. So there are very specific times and situations with the publishers and communication between the textbook commissioners. This is very important, and we'll have some more information on blackout periods as we go through this. Once you've read over that, you'll go through the during evaluation week. So what is it that you're going to be doing while you're there? Okay. So our first job was to make sure publishers are set up. Our second job is to make sure that all of the evaluators are actually evaluating what we need them to evaluate. So you can see down here that Commissioner Jimenez, we actually came up with a document while we were there as to how we were going to keep up with each advisor and make sure that everybody was getting the books done that needed to be done. So that was something that worked really well for us, and we have shared the template for you. Okay, we had some troubleshooting. A lot of issues that we found that were coming up were technical issues with publishers' devices. A lot of times it's just restart the device. We can walk you through that. And as a commissioner, we'll look at those pieces before the actual advisors come in. Okay. If none of that works, then, Commissioner Linker is the person to go to from that. Okay. You're going to want to come up with some sort of note-taking strategy just for yourself, because once we get towards the end of the process, those notes are going to become very valuable to you. So again, Commissioner Linker has given you guys a screenshot of the notes that we had set up. So this Word document was actually part of our group that was in the middle school room. And we worked on this collaboratively. We worked on it together. So then that way, by the time all of the advisors had gone through and told us what they found, we had a really good list of information, pros and cons. Be very careful as you go through our pages. There's going to be some very important notes here at the bottom. We want you to see these and to understand them. Please just don't skip over them, because they are things that we wish we would have thought of in the process. Okay, we'll get to after the evaluation week, and let's just talk about, what's the next course of action once everything is said and done and everybody has gone home. What do we do now? We'll have a day where just the commissioners actually go into the room and we go through our notes and we talk about, if we're going to recommend or not recommend somebody. And that would be after the evaluation week is over. Okay. There will be a sign-off page again with this one, just to make sure that you have read and understand everything that you have seen. Okay. Deliberations and Reconsideration. So this is where your note taking becomes very important, because this comes a month or so after the actual evaluation process. Okay. So you should already have your notes. You should have your report done. You should be ready to talk about, are you going to vote yay or nay? But they also want to know why. Okay. So the publisher may ask you for very specifics as to why would you say nay? You should be able to go back and reference your notes and look at the cons and say, these are the reasons why we felt as commissioners that this publication was not valuable to our students. Okay. Right here, this was something that came up. Commissioner Linker had talked about being present and being a participant, an active participant in all of our meetings. When it comes to deliberation weeks, the one thing that we don't want is we don't want the commissioners to just keep repeating what somebody else said. So if I say, I really like this book because it hits EC students, then don't say exactly what I said, just in different words. Okay. This is about being present and really knowing what you're going to talk about. That will help speed up because this can be a very long process. Okay. All right. If there is any publisher that needs to be reconsidered, then we actually have to meet with the publisher. They have to go back over and give us their spiel. We have to take some more notes, and we have to really decide, like, is this something that we want or we don't? And again, we have to have the information to back that up. Okay. Again, you will have a sign-off page that you will need to complete saying that you read and you understand everything that you've read. And once you get to the deliberation page, that is the end. Okay. So this is kind of really just a very quick synopsis of what you guys are going to see. Mainly what we wanted you to know is that everything has a toggle. Okay. It's either going to open up as a PDF or it's going to open up as a website. Please, if it opens up as a PDF, save it to your device. It might be a good idea for you guys to go ahead and make a subfolder within your commission folder so you have all the important paperwork that you need, because you will be using it again. These are things that are going to continue to come up during that evaluation week that would be really important to hang on to. Okay, Commissioner Jimenez, is there anything else that you want me to go over within this?
I don't think so, Commissioner Jimenez. I don't think so. I think that was a great job. I will say that within the Canvas course, I did set up like prerequisites and requirements, so you can't just like jump around. Like once you start, it's very linear. You go from one page to the next, and it won't let you access the next page until you complete the page that you're on. Other than that, the movement and the flow might change a little bit as we make some edits and updates. But for the most part, it's going to look like what you just saw.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, we probably have a few minutes. Stop sharing so you guys can.
Commissioner Marshall, I have a question.
Sure.
How do we access that Canvas course?
So you will actually be invited to it once it goes live. It has not gone live yet because we are adding a few more pieces to it. But as soon as it goes live, Dr. Fair will actually add everybody to the course, and she'll give you some information today on when to access it, and then a due date as to when everything has to be done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, Commissioner Linker, I think that's it.
Good job. That was really clear. So just to kind of follow up on the last question, we will be sending out an email. If you're already a school system employee, you probably have an IAM account, and when you're invited in, you will actually see the Canvas course for the state for DPI in your IAM account when you log in. If you're not a school system employee or you don't have an IAM account, you'll get information on that because you'll have to be added. We do have a commissioner that was working with us on the subcommittee that is not a school system employee, and we were able to add him so he could participate through the process as well. Expectations for the course is that every commissioner, including those of us that have spent 7 months working on it, will complete the course before we meet next. And we're going to talk about when that next meeting will be at the end of this meeting, but we're shooting for February, roughly 4 or 5 weeks from now. We're trying to get back on pace to where we would be at this point in the cycle. And so just a little to kind of like sum back up where we are as a whole. As a commission, we'd already received quite a bit of the training last year. We'd had the content training. We had our first meeting with the ethics training. We saw the invitation. We looked at the criteria sheets, and then it was boom, we stopped like the whole world did. And so we're not going back and repeating all of that information that was from the beginning. The first 3 meetings that we did have last year, we're still in the same cycle. We still have the same content that we would be evaluating when the cycle picks back up. But as a commission, we're just getting ourselves lined up so when that happens, we're ready to roll, and we're not trying to scramble and find advisors on the other parts of the pieces that we didn't get to when we stopped. Is there any questions about that? So the hope is as you go through the course, if you have any questions or you're not sure that you remember some stuff because, hey, it's been a year, and that's perfectly understandable, then the next meeting we could arrange to have, the attorney present if we have any questions about ethics and blackouts and the legality parts of it. We could have content people if you have any questions about the content or the criteria sheets. All of that's in the invitation. So the hope was that the Canvas course will get everybody's mind back into the game and the information that we have already shared, so that, like I said, we can prepare to pick up and continue the process. We would still be looking at evaluating the CTE courses and the math 1, 2, 3, 4 discrete math, and there was one other math course. There was 6 math courses, I think. We are not doing social studies because they're revising those standards. So that is on pace. We did add a few courses back to the CTE from what we had originally planned, and so you would see maybe some additional courses, but it's still the majority of the CTE, which is a huge catalog of courses that are offered in various programs. So take a minute and let that sit in. You have any questions? Any concerns?
This is Commissioner Morris. Could you repeat the courses that we will be evaluating?
Well, they're all in the invitation. So there's some math. Like I know it's for math, it's high school courses. So it's math 1, 2, 3, and 4. Discrete math, and off the top of my head, I don't know the other math. And then for CTE courses, there's a lot of them. And again, there should be spelled out in the invitation, or there are criteria sheets for those. And if not, I can send you a list. I can send everybody a list.
Okay, thank you.
Would that help? Okay. So Dr. Fair, can we make a note to send out a list of the courses?
Sure, but I would also encourage the commissioners to go to the textbook adoption website.
It is on there.
The invitation as well as the list pull out from the invitation are on the website. They're already there, as well as the updated schedule for what will be adopted. So they'd be able to see, where we are as far as the schedule of adoption in coming years as well.
And actually, I did see that last night. And there'll be there's a link in the when we get to the course, but if not, if you just go to Department North Carolina Public Schools.org, and if you just Google textbook adoption, you'll pull up the homepage and you'll see, I think it's under the adoption process. Nope. Yeah, no. Yes, so if you pull up the textbook adoption homepage, you'll see down the right-hand side a dark navy blue bar, and textbook adoption process is one of the options. And when you're on that page, if you scroll down, you'll see the CTE criteria sheets and then the 912 criteria sheets. So I'm giving a few seconds to make sure we don't have any other questions before I move on. I don't hear anything. So to honor everyone's time, we're going to go to the next part. So now that we're kind of back on schedule to what we would have talked about at the next meeting, our next area that we're going to look at is the commissioners, our role and expectations. And so that is actually spelled out in statute. So Dr. Fair, if you can change to the next slide. I just pulled out that actual statute, and I thought I would just kind of explain what the two parts are. So our call, our charge as a commission member, every commission member, is to evaluate textbooks that are being offered for adoption. And so we are charged with evaluating all textbooks that are adopted. And what that means is that so that's like, if you look at the slide, it is general statute is 115C section 88. And it's got an A and a B. So an A just says that we will evaluate. And it talks about we could have experts that we call those advisors. to help us review, but it is ultimately our review. So the reviews from outside experts do not substitute for our direct examination of the materials that are offered for adoption. And that is why you would need access, as one of the things that Commissioner Sykes pointed out in the course. It all kind of ties back to that. Why you get access to materials, because you have to, as a commission member, go through those materials with the criteria sheets yourself. And that window starts as soon as you have access to the material. Evaluation week is usually about a month later. So you'll have about a month to dig into the material, get a feel for it, how to navigate it. And then we spend the evaluation week when we have the outside experts, which we call advisors from throughout the state, to come in and use that same criteria sheet. They dig in. They're certified in the discipline for which they're evaluating. And then we take all of their reviews and to help us as we make a decision, but it is ultimately each commission member's decision. Is there any questions about what that entails? Okay, so Dr. Fair, if you can go to the next slide. And so the second part, and I kind of made this in bold, kind of to follow on the first part, each member shall examine carefully and file a written evaluation of each proposed textbook for which the member is responsible. Well, we're responsible for everything. So everything that is submitted, every commission member will carefully examine and file a written evaluation of that proposed textbook. Part of the process of the evaluation is we get our materials, we start going through it. Then we have the advisors, we have like evaluation week, and they comb through it, and then we debrief the advisors to kind of get their general feel for it. Then they leave, and as Dr. Sykes said, we usually have 2 or 3 weeks before we reconvene again as a commission for what we call deliberation. And so the whole point of a deliberation is you're coming in with your pros and your cons, and we actually do just that, deliberate. We talk about what we found that was strong, what we didn't find, what it was lacking, and then we vote, do we think that it meets the criteria? And all that is laid out in the criteria sheet. And so that's what we call the deliberation. Reconsideration comes if the commission does not recommend a specific submission. The publisher can ask us to reconsider it, and they provide some additional information based on the comments that they hear as we're deliberating. Well, they would come back and could show us where they think the information is, or the holes that we found where they can show that they're actually there. And then we vote again. Did they share with us enough information that yes, we can say it does meet the criteria, or we still don't see that the evidence is there to support it, and we would vote again. And so that in the end would be our written report. And it's set up really well. We have a platform. We had a little training in, I think, in our last meeting, and we will dig a little deeper into it. But basically, you're typing into a form that's on a digital platform, and you're typing in your strengths and you're typing your weaknesses, and everything from that gets compiled into a huge digital report that is then sent to the Board of Education, along with our recommendations whether to approve or not approve. And then the Board of Education makes their decision based on that information that we send forward. So we felt like we needed to spend a little time going into what that report looks like. That's some of the feedback that we've got from especially the newer commissioners last year, is that even though we talked about it before we had the cycle 2 summers ago, they really didn't have an idea of what it was until it was time to be done with it, if that made sense. So just to dig a little deeper in what that looks like. And so I thought the best way to do that would be to actually show you an example or some examples from reports that were actually submitted that were part of the ELA adoption. I mean, just kind of point out some pointers to it. So Dr. Fair, if you can go to the next slide. So when we have and when I say lump, then the report's a 1,000 pages almost, because every commission member, and there's 23 of us, and it's however many cells it takes to put the information. So when I am writing my report, I don't see everything. I just see that one submission at a time. So I'm just focusing on this submission from Mickey Mouse Publisher, ELA Book 1, Kindergarten, and I'm writing in the first column is where I type strengths. In the second column is where I would do weaknesses or things that I would have liked to have seen. And then in the last column is the overall, just your overall feel for it. And then the programmers have it where that gets dumped into this final report, which ends up making a lot of pages. So the first example you'll see in the left-hand column, you'll see some people choose to write more generic type comments specifically for that that submission. And sometimes you would choose to put specific standards that are strong or weak. It really depends on your writing purpose. If you're going to be more of a holistic writer or if you're going to be to the points. But you can see that the little dashes on our platform, and those were actually bullets. And then when it dumped it into the form, it just kind of like ran it together. But each little dash within that first box is a different point that this specific commission member was trying to make. So you'll see that they talk about the number one thing is doesn't make 80% of the standard course of study. And there would be comments to if it did or if it didn't. And then any other strong pieces from the other sections of the criteria sheet that was well done and strong. And then in the second column, in the top, on the top row, you'll see there's a specific standard. So it said RI, which is reading information. 5 is 5th grade. 7 is, RI is 5. And then the 7th one is draw on information. So that particular one was weak. And so the commission member chose not to just say what the standard is, but actually labeled the standard, if that makes sense. And then not everything is standard related. Sometimes there should be their strengths and their weaknesses based on the other sections of the criteria sheet, as in pedagogy and technology, and does it meet the needs of EL students and EC students, and is it handicap accessible? And so there's lots of different parts that make up that criteria sheet, not just the standard course of study. And then on the right column, you'll see that's just the general overall. And that's where you'll see a lot of different based on the different commission members, their writing style. So, so this commissioner just put some general points in that for overall comments. So if you take a second and kind of look at it, this is what we're talking about for report. And all of this information you glean from digging in yourself and looking at the information that's provided from the advisors, and then as well as when we deliberate. Each commission member has a strength and a weakness. I'll be the first to tell you that CTE is not my strength. And I will dig a lot more myself into the standards and into the content to try to understand. I will, there's commission members. We have 2 commission members that actually teach in the CTE courses and are in that part of instruction. And so they would be another resource. If I wasn't really sure what something meant, I might ask one of them, can you tell me what this means? Not asking them to look at the material, but like, what does this standard mean? So then I know what I'm looking for. And so if you notice, there is something in every column. And in some columns, there's not a lot. If you look in the third row, the first column, there's not a lot. I think of it as a teacher's perspective. You know, you want to try to do 2 grows and a glow. I mean, 2 glows and a grow, like 2 good things and 1 thing to work on. Because one, not only just approving or disapproving, or I should say recommending or not recommending this material, publishers use this material, we hope, to see how to provide instructional material that meets our needs in the future. Everyone's trying to grow and learn. Everything can be improved upon, but yet give them kudos for when they do something really well. Something can be really well done, but it doesn't meet all of the criteria. So you wouldn't necessarily not have a positive comment if you don't think it meets the overall criteria. There could be some things that are well done. You would therefore make some positive comments, but you would also point out things they need to work on. Vice versa, something could have 95% of the standard course of study covered, but you would have liked to have seen something else different incorporated. And so that information is also important for the publishers. It's information that they like to know. So Dr. Fair, if you can go to the next slide. So here you see another commission members, and there's not as many in the negatives, but that's because she felt like it was really strong and she really didn't see anything that she could point out. And this would all be the same publisher. Sometimes you might see some general information that's the same because traditionally, like a K2 especially, sometimes a K5 may have strengths that are the same throughout this if it's a series that they're submitting. So if it's, for example, if it's writing and they all had guided reading groups and in differentiation, well, usually it would be in every grade level. So it's okay to say it for every grade level if that's the case. And then you'll see there's also more positive in the right-hand overall comments. Dr. Fair, I think we have maybe 2 more examples. Because here's someone else's, a different commission members, and so you can see how the styles are kind of different. Everyone has their own unique writing style, but you're getting the same basic information across. So I really kind of wanted to give you little snippets from 3 or 4 different commission members so that you could see the different styles. Again, you've got your strengths, you've got your weaknesses. This one writes more what I call holistically. You don't see as much specific standards listed, but at the end and the last row, the middle column, you'll see that this commission member did particularly point out one standard that was weak or was missing. And you'll see comments made to the EC and the EL because that's also part of the lens that we look at materials that meet the needs of all of our students, as well as the accelerated group that we want to push up still. And then, is there one more, Dr. Fair? Okay. And so then this format, you'll see not as much necessarily on the first 2, but the overall has a lot. And remember, so when we're filling out our report on our platform, when we're doing our individual submissions, they're saved or they're linked to the submission number. So like if I'm looking at ABCY from Mickey Mouse Publisher for kindergarten, then I'm only going to see the comments for that, and I'm going to want all my notes in front of me when we're deliberating. And so this person actually puts like yes or no, like yes, they think coming in that it meets it, or no, they don't. So that's the way that they record in their overall. And is there another one, or is that it, Dr. Fair? No, that was it. Okay. And my example is different, totally different from those styles in that I use my overall for the overall areas. There's usually an section A, B, C, and D on the criteria sheet, and A's being standard course of study, and I'll make a general overall for each comment for each of those areas. And then my strengths and my weaknesses are specific for the strengths and weaknesses. So your styles are going to be different, and no one's report is going to look exactly the same. But the key point to think as you start looking at the materials when we get to that point is that you're taking notes, or you're using the criteria sheet, and you're trying to figure out how it fits before we get to evaluation week, so you know how it flows, because the timeline gets kind of tight between the evaluation week and deliberation. And the big thing is we need to have comments. We need to have strengths. We need to have weaknesses. We need to have overall comments. We don't need to have a report that's got a lot of blank columns and blank cells, because our charge as commission members is to complete a report. And again, you're not going to have comments, a lot of comments for everything, but you should have some comments for everything. And sometimes we do have, and I don't think I had that as an example, but sometimes a publisher may package something totally digitally, and then the exact same material is also a printed option or a combination print and digital. And in those cases, you might see referred to the comparable number. So you wouldn't necessarily have to duplicate. But in most other cases, you need to be prepared to have, at least one strong thing and one weak thing, and then your overall comments. The more information we can provide publishers, the better it helps the process. It also provides information for districts. Our report is public record, and they can look at it to say, well, yes, the textbook commission recommended this, but what did they really think about this one versus this one? So it lets school districts look a little deeper when they're trying to select material. So that was probably a lot of talking. Hopefully you gleaned a little bit from the examples, and it makes a little more sense before we start getting to that part of the process. So at this point, do you have any questions?
This commission, go ahead. Does someone else have one besides me? This is Commissioner Autry. I do have a question around this adoption cycle. I guess it's specific to this one. I'm looking at the invitation, and I know that we're doing the CTE areas. There are 7 program areas listed under CTE, but for instance, the agricultural one has 18 courses listed under that. So are we going to be, I guess, reviewing each of those 18 courses, or are we looking at agriculture education as a whole?
It is each course and however much, if any, is submitted.
Okay. And then I know from years past that we don't know how many will be submitted for each course until it all comes in. Okay. Right. Just trying to gauge. Okay.
And it's been a long time since we've evaluated CTE. They are long overdue for material. And traditionally, when we did it in the past, it was a huge, a lot of people there, to evaluate the different courses, but we didn't tend to have a lot of submissions for each one. And there may not be as much, quote, stuff to go through because it's really specific in the content. Does that help answer your question?
It does. I just want to make sure that I was looking at specifically.
Yeah, each specific course has, we would evaluate everything submitted in each course separately.
Okay. Just making sure I have the space available.
I say, and in the past, there really hasn't been, because a lot of CTE courses are hands-on kind of like experience sort of things. So if it's a masonry course, you're not going to get the bricks. You're just going to get the content that they use to teach them about it before they actually put it in practice. So it really may not be as much as you think. Are there any other questions?
Commissioner Coggins here. I know last year with the 2020 adoption, the State Board of Education, they kind of they postponed it indefinitely. I was just curious, and I may have missed something, but are we kind of just moving forward since it's a 2021 adoption, or is there going to be a have an update from the State Board of Education at some point as far as moving forward with the process?
So actually, we, the commission, asked for it to stop, given the pandemic and the way that we knew we couldn't do face-to-face. And so basically it wasn't stopped, it was just put on hold. So we're actually evaluating, and we're hoping to be back in cycle before the end of this fiscal year, which would be July 1st. that's the hope that we are in a place that we can do evaluations at some point, hopefully in June. But we would just be doing the areas that were scheduled to be evaluated in 2020. At this
Thank you.
point.
That answered my question. I appreciate it.
So we didn't add anything new to the invitation. The only thing we would be changing would be the dates. And so that's why like all the training that we've had up into this point still works. It's just been a long time since we've had any meetings about it. It would just be a matter of asking the Board of Education to resume the schedule and approve the tentative dates. Hopefully we'll have more information on that when we meet in February. Right now, there's some transitions going on as different people come in and go out and see the board's meeting, but we're hoping to get that on the agenda in the next month or two. Are there any other questions? And so I think ultimately was just to give an opportunity just to kind of like hone in a little bit deeper on what does our report look like? How is that expectation understood? Does everyone kind of have a clear understanding of that is our main charge. That is what we're a commission for. And that filing that report is a requirement that we assume when we accept the position on the commission. And so like when we go back, there are a handful of commission members that are new and have not gone through the evaluation process at all. Don't let this scare you. It is not as bad as it might look or as much to it as it might look, although there is a lot to it. It is doable. It's especially if you pace yourself and you don't wait to the last minute and try to like cram everything in. But it's just that the reports really need to be, they have to be submitted before we leave at our last meeting. Like before we leave that meeting, you hit your submit button. Once it's gone, you don't get it back. You can't change it. Once we voted, you can't change your opinion and your vote are a matter of public record. So when we leave, it's gone, and then it's just a matter of the programmers printing the report and sending everything that the Board of Education needs to make their decision based on our recommendations. There's just about a 3 to 4 week turnaround time that they have to get their materials before they meet, and so we have to leave that window of time from the time that we end our last meeting until they meet to make sure they have the report in their hands in a timely manner so that they have a chance to look through it. I'll say it's a pretty hefty document. And again, our report is a matter of public record, so other vested stakeholders can view it at any time. I will say that the process now has improved 200% from when I first came on, which now would be 16 years ago, because back then the criteria sheet was legal size, front and back, 3 to 4 pages long, and we had to fill out a paper copy for each submission with text boxes to write in and submit. So digital and the platform and how it takes everything and just dumps it into the report makes things a lot smoother than in the past. So we'll look at this a little bit as we get closer to it. This was just an opportunity for us to kind of look at it and actually for you to have some examples to see what we mean when we say report. And again, like you have a good month and a half to 2 months to get your thoughts and your notes together. The platform usually provides us with the official document that we type in that then merges into the final document, but there's also a place just to take random notes. And again, that will fit your style, and we will have another training session because we really didn't go a lot into that. When we had our last face-to-face meeting, we had the intro to it, but we couldn't really access it yet. And then we closed between that March meeting and then the meeting in April. And the meeting in April became 100% virtual. We were all from home. So we will have an opportunity to go back and look at that platform and what that looks like and how it lines up. And again, just as the report is going to be different as it takes different writing styles in consideration, everyone's is going to look exactly the same. The format's laid out the same so that if someone else is reading the report, there's a flow. There's the strengths, there's the weaknesses, there's the overall, and it's all in the same order. It makes it a lot easier as you're looking through it to have everyone with the same basic framework. But what you put within that framework is going to vary from person to person. Just like how you take notes is going to vary from person to person. I have gone from making my own Google sheet to take my notes, mostly so I can spell check before I put it in the final document, because the final document does not spell check, or do a grammar check, to using the thing on the platform because it was in a secure place and I didn't have to worry about losing my Google Drive or my paper. If I was doing it hand notes, it made it a lot easier to go from place to place with it in one access point. Again, that's going to kind of depend on your preference and what you're comfortable with. So we have no questions, no comments. I feel like I should need to touch base. So the commission members that are new to this cycle and haven't gone through the process, if you feel like it's a lot, and you just reach out to any of us and we'll be glad to explain it or talk about it. It's really not as much as what it might look like. It's just more of the tone that it's a little serious. The report is an actual serious component. Then it is meant to think that your overwhelming amount of work that is coming up. So again, not to scare anybody off, just kind of let you would see what the final looks like, so you'll know what we're going for. What's our ultimate goal? There's a lot that goes into providing our reports, mostly because we want the instructional resources available for the students in the state of North Carolina to be of the best quality and to meet the needs for the students and the teachers across the state. That's why we ourselves as a commission represent districts or regions from across the state, and that's why when we go to pick our advisors, we have a pool of applicants to pull from, and we make a concerted effort to pick them from across the state so that everyone has input into the process. So I'm not hearing any questions. Dr. Fair, I think the next one is just next steps, right? Yeah. Closing remarks. I think I pretty much said everything a couple of times. I just want to make sure we have plenty of chances for any questions, any conversations. Trying to get everybody kind of back on the schedule and into some sort of semblance of normalcy. So basically, closing remarks. Our next steps are one, you will hear from Dr. Fair in the next week or so with information on how to get into that Canvas course. And you will need to finish it before we meet next time. After we leave this meeting, because I didn't want too many dates out there, before we met, but after we leave this meeting in the next couple days, Dr. Fair will get a poll out for when we're looking at for our next meeting. Again, we're trying to keep on kind of schedule and give us ourselves this opportunity to make sure everybody's got a clear understanding. And so as you're going through the Canvas course, if there's anything you're not sure about, or you think we need to dig deeper in, or it's been a year and you don't remember the training, or you weren't even here to have the training, it's really important that you let Dr. Farrell or myself know within a week or so before our next meeting, so that we have a chance to make sure we're pulling some things to help bridge that gap and answer those questions. And if we feel like it's been a while and we want to look at the criteria again, we can have the consultants from DPI do a quick little overview of the criteria sheet. But in the meantime, if you look either in the invitation or you look on the DPI site, you'll see the criteria sheet. So at least you have a reference before we meet. We did, as a commission, approve those. We had an opportunity to provide input in those criteria sheets, and all that was done before the invitation was approved by the Board of Education, and that's been almost a year ago. So take some time to go through the course, to look at the roles and responsibilities, to kind of get a flow for what the process looks like. Once we get a date, or if we get the go ahead to go and to resume full-fledged, a scheduled date for evaluation and what that looks like, then we'll start moving on. If we know by the next meeting, we'll talk about it next meeting. If we don't, by March at the latest, we'll start talking about advisors and what does that look like and who we're looking for. CTE is going to be different for those of you that have done ELA and then math the year before. In that you're not going to get, every region won't get an advisor for every area. It may be the odd districts get this and the even districts get this. And then we just fill in the holes if we can't find people. So that's kind of where we are looking at using this opportunity to make sure we have an understanding and we're ready, we know what we're doing. So then when we get the green light, we're ready to move. And then hopefully by this summer, we'll be able to provide these input for this material. Because like I say, CTE has not had an evaluation in, Dr. Fair, was it 2009?
I think maybe 7 and 8.
I mean, it has been a long time. And there are a lot of CTE courses that have gone through a lot of change in those 13 years. So it's a much needed resource. So again, I encourage you to go through the course. If you have any questions, you can ask before, any more support that you need, or you want to delve deeper in before we meet next time, let us know so we can plan for it. I don't want to waste anybody's time. We had allotted time to be able to have more of a discussion, probably a lot of information at one time. And I don't want to drag out and keep you when there's really no questions if you don't have any other questions. So then we will leave with next steps. Basically, be looking for an email from Dr. Fair with access to the course. Start it. In that email, she'll tell you what it needs to be completed by. Be looking for a Google poll. Be sure you fill that out quickly. There's a couple of dates with some time choices. I know as people still are in limbo between where are you going to be? Are you going to be, if you're in a school, are you in a hybrid model? Are you all virtual? Are you face-to-face? And how that's going to change. And so we tried to give a couple of options, a morning and evening after lunch to see if that worked better. When we were meeting face-to-face, we all traveled to Raleigh. So those meetings were traditionally at 9 o'clock in the morning so that people could drive in if they needed to drive in that morning. And we tried to be finished with the work and lunch by 2-ish so that everybody had a chance to get home. So we have a little more flexibility if we meet virtually. And at this point, the next meeting would be virtual because a lot of things would have to happen before we could have a face-to-face meeting. And so you can plan on the fact that we would have a virtual meeting in our March meeting and just be looking for the dates for Dr. Fair on the options to pick from. We have to have quorum, which means we have to have at least 13 commission members at a meeting to hold it. I would love to have everybody because I think that's when we have, if you have any questions, there's other people to ask. There's lots of experience on the commission, and there's even the newer people that have gone through it once have important things that they can share from their point of view. Sometimes when you've been on it a long time like I have, it's really hard to remember those beginning years and what it was like. And also to give you guys a chance to know who is in your region that's also a commissioner member, because you'll end up working together when we get to the advisors part, and that gives you somebody maybe closer that you can ask questions to as well.
Commissioner Lincoln, Carmel, I have one correction.
Okay.
The number for quorum is actually 12.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, that's right. It'd be 50% of 23. Okay. So if there's no other questions, you have no concerns, then I can, we should entertain a motion to adjourn. And then if we're ready to adjourn, we would need a second. And then Dr. Fair would do the roll call for us to vote.
This is Commissioner Seiss. I move to adjourn.
This is Commissioner Robertson. I second the motion to adjourn.
Dr. Fair, we have a motion. We have a second. Can you call the roll?
Yes. Laura Austin.
Commissioner Austin? Aye.
Jody Autry.
Commissioner Autry, aye.
Megan Kennedy.
Commissioner Kennedy, aye.
Edward Coggins.
Commissioner Coggins, aye.
Angela Flowers.
Commissioner Flowers, aye.
Commissioner Gadet.
Commissioner Gadet, aye.
Dawn Hester.
Hester, aye.
Hannah Jimenez.
Commissioner Jimenez, aye.
Kathleen Linker.
Kathleen Linker, aye.
Amy Marshall.
Commissioner Marshall, aye.
Susan Mills.
Commissioner Mills, aye.
Danielle Morris.
Commissioner Morris, aye.
Stephen Parker.
Commissioner Parker, aye.
Kim Robertson.
Commissioner Robertson, aye.
Lindsay Seiss.
Commissioner Seiss, aye.
So everyone present has agreed to adjourn.
Okay. And with that, we look forward to seeing you again in March. And thank you, Dr. Fair, for your continued support.
You're welcome.